The Forgotten Outpost, the attack begins. The morning shift on mining colony Arcturus 9 started like any other. Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck, coffee in hand, watching the twin suns rise over the crystalline mountains. The colony had been operational for 8 months now, extracting rare minerals that Earth desperately needed for its growing space fleet. 43 souls called this remote asteroid home, mostly engineers and geologists with a handful of support staff and security personnel. Sarah had been a mining engineer before taking the commander position. She understood rock formations and drilling equipment better than military tactics. That was supposed to be fine. Arcturus 9 sat deep in Galactic Union-protected space, where conflicts were resolved through diplomatic channels and ancient treaties kept the peace. Or so the Union had promised when humanity signed the Colonial Expansion Agreement. The first explosion shattered that illusion along with the Eastern Sensor Array. Sarah dropped her coffee mug. It hit the metal floor, but she barely heard it over the blaring alarms. Her hands flew to the communication console as red warning lights bathed the observation deck in crimson urgency. "Report," she shouted into the comm system. "Commander, we have multiple hostile contacts." The voice belonged to James Rodriguez, her head of security. A former police officer from New Dallas, he had exactly 4 security personnel under his command. 6 vessels, Krell design. They're not responding to hails. They're just shooting. Sarah's blood turned cold. The Krell were known throughout the galaxy as raiders and slavers. They operated in the lawless zones beyond Union jurisdiction, preying on vulnerable targets. But Arcturus 9 wasn't in the lawless zones. This was Union space. This wasn't supposed to happen here. "Activate shields and seal all external hatches," Sarah ordered, her mind racing through emergency protocols she'd hoped never to use. "Get everyone to the central bunker." "How long until they breach?" "Shields are holding for now, but Commander, these are mining shields. They're designed to deflect micrometeorites, not military-grade plasma cannons. Maybe 20 minutes if we're lucky." 20 minutes. Sarah pulled up the colony layout on her screen. The central bunker could hold everyone, but it had no weapons, limited supplies, and only one exit. It was a tomb waiting to be sealed. The Union's response, Sarah's fingers moved across the communication panel with practiced efficiency. She opened the emergency frequency that connected directly to the nearest Galactic Union outpost, a massive station called Unity 7 that housed representatives from a dozen species and supposedly maintained a rapid response fleet for exactly this kind of situation. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of Human Mining Colony Arcturus 9. We are under attack by Krell raiders. 6 hostile vessels, 43 civilians in immediate danger. We are requesting emergency military assistance. Please respond." She waited. 5 seconds, 10, 15. Finally, a response crackled through. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a Zentari official. The insectoid species had compound eyes that reflected no emotion Sarah could read. Its translator converted its clicking mandibles into flat, bureaucratic tones. "Colony Arcturus 9, your distress call has been received and logged. Please hold while we review the appropriate response protocols." "Hold?" Sarah's voice rose despite her attempts at control. "They're shooting at us right now. We need help immediately." "We understand your concern. However, the Galactic Union must follow proper procedures. Your colony's registration status shows provisional licensing. We need to verify jurisdiction before dispatching military assets. This may take several hours." Another explosion rocked the colony. Sarah grabbed the edge of the console to steady herself. "Several hours? We'll be dead in 20 minutes. You have ships. You have weapons. We're in Union-protected space. Send help now." The Zentari's antenna twitched in what might have been the equivalent of a shrug. "Commander Chen, humanity joined the Galactic Union only 5 years ago. Your species holds associate member status. Full military protection is reserved for primary members. I can file an expedited request, but the response time will likely be 48 to 72 hours. Sarah felt something break inside her chest. Not fear, though that was present. Not even anger, though that burned hot in her veins. It was the sudden, crushing realization that the galaxy didn't care if they lived or died. Humanity's place in the cosmic order was so small, so insignificant, that 43 lives weren't worth the fuel costs of launching a rescue mission. "I see," Sarah said quietly. "Log this conversation. Timestamp it, and when Earth asks what happened here, you can explain why you let us die." She closed the channel before the Zentari could respond. Preparing for war, the colony's cafeteria had become a command center. Sarah stood before 42 frightened faces. engineers who worked with rock and metal, scientists who studied geological formations, a teacher who'd been hired to educate the 3 children in the colony, her security chief and his 4 officers. Not soldiers, not warriors, just humans trying to make a living on the frontier. James Rodriguez stood beside her, his face grim. He'd already distributed the colony's entire arsenal. 5 emergency plasma cutters, 2 mining lasers that could be weaponized, and a handful of tools that might serve as weapons if desperation required it. The Union isn't coming, Sarah told them. No point in lying. They've made it clear that we're not important enough to save. So we're going to save ourselves. A woman named Patricia Liu, one of the geologists, spoke up. Her voice shook, but her eyes were steady. Commander, we're not soldiers. Most of us have never even held a weapon. How are we supposed to fight pirates? The same way our ancestors fought, Sarah replied. With everything we have and refusing to give up. The Krell want our minerals and probably our equipment. They might want prisoners for slave trade, but they're expecting easy prey. They're expecting us to surrender. She looked around the room, meeting as many eyes as she could. We're from Earth. Every single one of us comes from a planet that tried to kill us for millions of years. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, ice ages, droughts, you name it. Our world was so hostile that we had to become the most stubborn species in the galaxy just to survive. The Krell are about to learn what that means. Miguel Santos, one of the younger engineers, raised his hand. He was 23, fresh out of academy. What's the plan, Commander? Sarah pulled up a holographic map of the colony. The central bunker is a death trap. Instead, we're going to use the mining tunnels. We know this rock better than anyone. We'll split into teams. Some will set traps using mining explosives. Others will create choke points where we can use the plasma cutters effectively. We'll make them fight for every meter. James added, the Krell are brutal, but they're not suicidal. If we make this costly enough, they might decide we're not worth the trouble. And if they don't give up? Patricia asked. Sarah's jaw tightened. Then we make sure they remembered that attacking humans was the worst decision they ever made. The secret message. While the colonists prepared their defense, Sarah returned to the communication room. She had one more message to send, but not through Union channels. Those had proven worthless. She accessed the old Earth military frequencies, the ones that predated humanity's contact with the Galactic Union. These channels were slow, using quantum entanglement communicators that couldn't match the instantaneous speed of Union technology. A message sent this way would take 4 days to reach Earth instead of 4 hours. 4 days might as well be forever when you had 20 minutes to live. But Sarah sent it anyway. This is Commander Sarah Chen, Arcturus 9 mining colony. Coordinates attached. Under attack by Krell raiders. 43 humans in danger. The Galactic Union has refused assistance, citing our provisional status. If anyone receives this message, know that we fought. Know that we didn't surrender. And know that the galaxy considers human lives disposable. Chen out. She encrypted the message with every security protocol Earth had developed and sent it into the void. The battle begins. The Krell breached the outer hull 17 minutes after their first shot. Sarah watched on the security monitors as armored figures poured through the gap. They were large, nearly 7 feet tall, with thick scaled skin and multiple arms carrying various weapons. Their species had evolved on a high-gravity world, making them physically powerful and difficult to injure. Team 1, they're entering Corridor 9. Sarah spoke calmly into her comm unit. Wait until they reach the junction, then trigger the charges. She counted seconds. On the monitor, the Krell moved with confidence, their weapons sweeping the empty corridors. They'd done this before, raided colonies, captured or killed everyone inside. This was routine for them. The explosion sent 3 Krell flying backward. Rock and metal rained down, sealing the corridor. The raiders' confident advance stopped. Team 2, they're redirecting to Corridor 12, James called out. Get ready with the plasma cutters. Sarah switched camera views. 3 colonists crouched behind makeshift barriers, their mining tools modified into weapons. Their hands shook, but they held position. The Krell entered the corridor. The colonists opened fire. Mining plasma cutters weren't designed as weapons, but they could slice through solid rock. The superheated plasma streams caught the raiders by surprise. One went down screaming. The others scrambled for cover. Fall back to position 2, James ordered. The colonists retreated through the tunnels they knew by heart, leading the Krell deeper into the maze. Sarah watched it all unfold. They were winning small victories, making the raiders pay for every advance. But there were too many Krell and too few humans. They had better weapons, better armor, and they wouldn't stop until the colony was theirs or everyone was dead. On her screen, Sarah could see the colony's chronometer. 4 days until her message reached Earth. 4 days until anyone who cared might learn what happened here. They had to survive 4 days. Sarah picked up a plasma cutter and headed toward the tunnels. If they were going to die, they'd die fighting. That was the human way. That was the only way she knew. The Krell were about to discover that Earth didn't raise its children to give up easily. The Deathworlders arrive, Earth's response 4 days earlier. In the heart of Earth's military command center buried deep beneath Geneva, Admiral Marcus Webb sat in his office reviewing fleet deployment reports. At 62 years old, he'd spent 40 years in Earth's Space Navy, rising from a shuttle pilot to commander of humanity's expeditionary fleet. His gray hair and weathered face told stories of battles fought in the dark between stars, of decisions that cost lives but saved many more. The quantum communicator on his desk chirped. Not the standard tone for Union channels, but the old Earth military frequency. Marcus frowned. Nobody used those channels anymore except for emergencies that needed to bypass Union oversight. He activated the message and listened to Commander Sarah Chen's voice. Her words were calm, professional, but Marcus heard what lay beneath them. Fear, determination, the voice of someone preparing to die. When the message ended, Marcus sat in silence for exactly 10 seconds. Then he pressed the fleet-wide alert button. All ships, immediate recall. Combat status Alpha. This is not a drill. Within minutes, his office filled with senior officers. Captain Jennifer Walsh commanded the dreadnought Indomitable. Commander Kenji Yamamoto led the stealth destroyer squadron. Major Elena Volkov oversaw the marine assault teams. They'd served together for years, fought together, bled together. Marcus played the message for them without preamble. That was sent 4 days ago, he said when it finished. Current status of Arcturus 9 is unknown. The Galactic Union refused to help because we're only associate members. Jennifer Walsh's jaw clenched. She'd lost her brother in the early colonial expansion, when Earth still trusted the Union's protection promises. How many ships can we mobilize? 47 within 6 hours, Marcus replied. Another 23 within 12 hours. I want every combat-ready vessel prepared for immediate departure. Admiral, the Union will call this a violation of our treaty obligations, Kenji said carefully. We're only authorized to maintain defensive fleets around Earth and its primary colonies. Taking this many ships into deep space without Union approval could cost us our membership. Marcus stood, his hands flat on the desk. Commander Yamamoto, I'm going to ask you a question, and I want your honest answer. What's more important, our seat at the Union's table or the lives of 43 humans that the Union decided weren't worth saving? Kenji met his admiral's eyes without flinching. The lives, sir. Always the lives. Then we're in agreement. Marcus pulled up a star map showing the route to Arcturus 9. The Union has taught us an important lesson. They don't see us as equals. They see us as newcomers who should be grateful for whatever scraps of protection they choose to offer. Today we teach them a different lesson. Elena Volkov leaned forward, her scarred hands gripping the edge of the table. What lesson would that be, Admiral? Marcus smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. That humans protect their own, and anyone who harms our people will face consequences they can't imagine. The fleet mobilizes. The launch sequence took 3 hours, 47 ships rising from Earth's orbital shipyards, each one a masterpiece of human engineering. The Union had limited humanity's military technology, restricting access to their most advanced systems. They'd done this to every associate member species, keeping them dependent and controllable. What the Union didn't know was that humans were very good at working around restrictions. The Indomitable led the fleet, a massive dreadnought that stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Its armor was composed of materials Earth had developed independently, alloys that could withstand punishment, that would shatter Union hulls. Its weapon systems used human-designed railguns that accelerated projectiles to speeds the Union considered impossible. Behind the Indomitable came destroyers, frigates, corvettes, and support vessels. Each ship carried Marines trained in zero-gravity combat. Each crew drilled in tactics the Union had never seen because they'd never bothered to study human military history. Marcus stood on the Indomitable's bridge, watching the fleet form up around his flagship. Jennifer Walsh sat in the captain's chair, her fingers dancing across control panels. "All ships report ready, Admiral," she said. "Course laid in for Arcturus 9. At maximum burn, we'll arrive in 73 hours. "Make it 60 hours, Marcus ordered. "Push the engines past safety limits if you have to. I don't care if we have to rebuild every reactor core when this is done. Those people have been alone long enough." The fleet accelerated, leaving Earth behind. As they passed Mars, Marcus received the first communication from the Galactic Union. Ambassador to Krill, a Valorian who'd always looked down on humanity's crude ways, appeared on screen. "Admiral Webb, the Galactic Council has noted your unauthorized fleet movement. You are violating multiple treaty provisions. Return to Earth space immediately or face sanctions." Marcus didn't bother standing for the hologram. "Ambassador, we received a distress call from our people. The same distress call your union ignored. We're going to provide the protection you refused to offer." T'Krill's crystalline features shifted in what might have been irritation. The Arcturus 9 situation was reviewed and deemed outside emergency response parameters. "Your species must learn to accept Union procedures." "Here's what we've learned, Ambassador," Marcus replied coldly. "We've learned that the Union considers human lives expendable. We've learned that your protection means nothing when it's actually needed, and we've learned that if we want our people safe, we have to do it ourselves." "You risk your entire membership for one minor colony?" Marcus leaned forward. "We risk everything for even one human life. That's what separates us from you. Now get off my bridge. I have people to save." He cut the connection before T'Krill could respond. The journey. 60 hours in space gave Marcus time to think, time to plan, time to remember why he'd dedicated his life to protecting humanity's reach into the stars. He'd been born on Earth, in the years before first contact with the Galactic Union. He remembered the excitement when alien ships arrived, the hope that humanity would finally join a grand cosmic community. He remembered the treaties signed with such optimism, the promises of cooperation and mutual protection. He also remembered the slow realization that the Union saw Earth as a primitive backwater, a species that had only recently achieved faster-than-light travel, barely worthy of notice. The Union's protection came with strings attached, restrictions that kept humanity dependent and weak. But humans had never been good at staying weak. Throughout the 60-hour journey, Marcus drilled his fleet relentlessly. Combat simulations ran around the clock. Marines practiced boarding actions. Gunners refined their targeting solutions. Every crew member understood that they were about to do something unprecedented in human space history. They were going to make the galaxy understand that attacking humans had consequences. On hour 58, they received a signal. Faint, almost lost in cosmic background radiation, but unmistakably human. It was automated. A distress beacon still broadcasting from Arcturus 9. "They're still fighting," Jennifer Walsh said quietly. 4 days and they're still fighting. Marcus felt something warm in his chest. Pride, hope, the stubborn refusal to surrender that had carried humanity through ice ages and plagues and wars and every other disaster Earth had thrown at their species. "Increase speed," he ordered. "I want to get there while there's still someone to save." Arrival. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Arcturus 9 system. Sensors immediately lit up with contacts. 6 Krell raider ships orbited the mining colony, their weapons still firing at the battered asteroid base. The colony's shields were gone, its outer sections torn open to vacuum. But the distress beacon still broadcast, still fighting, still refusing to die. "All ships battle formation Delta," Marcus commanded. "Target the Krell vessels. Prepare to fire on my mark." The human fleet spread out in a pattern that would have been impossible for Union ships. Human vessels could accelerate faster, turn sharper, operate at parameters that would tear apart more advanced but more fragile alien designs. It was the difference between a species that had built ships in comfortable labs versus a species that had learned engineering by trial and error in one of the galaxy's most hostile environments. The Krell noticed them. Of course they did. 47 warships were hard to miss. Marcus watched as the raider vessels turned to face this new threat, their weapon systems powering up. They thought they could win. After all, the Krell had been raiding colonies for centuries. They had experience, numbers, and no reason to fear some upstart species barely out of its home system. "Fire," Marcus said calmly. The Indomitable's main railgun spoke first. Slugs of metal accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed crossed the distance in heartbeats. The first Krell ship's shields flared, held for almost 2 seconds, then collapsed. The railgun slugs punched through the hull like paper, venting atmosphere and bodies into space. The rest of the fleet opened fire. Missiles, lasers, plasma cannons, and more railguns. The Krell tried to return fire, but they were outmatched in ways they couldn't comprehend. Human weapons hit harder, faster, and more accurately than anything they'd encountered. 2 more Krell ships died in the first minute. The remaining 3 tried to flee, their engines burning at maximum as they desperately sought to reach faster than light distance. "Kenji, don't let them leave," Marcus ordered. The stealth destroyer squadron appeared from nowhere, having used the battle's confusion to position themselves perfectly. Their torpedoes caught the fleeing Krell ships before they could jump, turning them into expanding clouds of debris. The entire battle lasted 4 minutes. The rescue Marcus wasted no time on celebration. "Elena, get your Marines down to that colony. Medical teams, damage control, search and rescue, move." Dropships launched from the fleet, racing toward the battered mining colony. Marcus watched the feeds from their cameras, seeing the devastation the Krell had inflicted. Large sections of the colony were exposed to vacuum. Bodies floated in some corridors. It looked like a tomb. Then the feed showed movement. A figure in a damaged pressure suit, wielding a plasma cutter like a weapon, emerging from a tunnel. Then another. And another. "This is Major Elena Volkov to any survivors. Human Marines have secured the area. You're safe now," a voice responded, hoarse from days of stress but unmistakably alive. "This is Commander Sarah Chen. Took you long enough." Marcus felt his throat tighten. He keyed his own comm. "Commander Chen, this is Admiral Marcus Webb. How many survivors?" 37, Admiral. We lost 6. Patricia Liu, Miguel Santos, David Foster, Rachel Park, Thomas O'Brien, and Jessica Moore. They died fighting. They died as heroes. They'll be remembered as such, Marcus promised. "Hang on, Commander. We're coming to get you." The aftermath, the rescue operation, took 12 hours. 37 survivors, most injured, all exhausted but alive. They'd held the colony for 4 days against overwhelming force, using nothing but mining equipment and sheer determination. Sarah Chen was the last one evacuated. She refused to leave until every one of her people was safely aboard the Indomitable. When she finally stepped onto the flagship's deck, still wearing her battered pressure suit and clutching a plasma cutter she'd carried for 4 days, the entire bridge crew stood and saluted. Marcus met her personally. She was younger than he'd expected, maybe 35, with dark circles under her eyes and burns on her hands from handling weapons never meant for combat. "Commander Chen, your defense of Arcturus 9 was extraordinary," Marcus said. Sarah shook her head. "We just refused to die quietly, Admiral. That's all." "That's everything," Marcus replied. "You showed the galaxy what humans are capable of." Before Sarah could respond, the comm system chirped. Ambassador Takrill's face appeared on the main screen, his crystalline features arranged in what might have been concern or might have been calculation. "Admiral Webb, the Galactic Council demands an explanation for your unprovoked attack on Krell vessels in Union space." Marcus turned to face the hologram, and when he spoke, his voice carried throughout the bridge, throughout the fleet, throughout every channel the Union monitored. "Unprovoked? The Krell attacked a human colony for 4 days while your Union refused to help. We did what you should have done. We protected our people. The Krell operate outside Union jurisdiction. Your attack on them may cause diplomatic complications. Then let me make something very clear, Ambassador," Marcus said, his voice hard as steel. "From this moment forward, any attack on human colonies will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. We will not wait for Union approval. We will not file proper paperwork. We will not accept your excuses about jurisdictions and procedures. We will protect our own, and anyone who threatens us will face the consequences." Takrill's image flickered. "You cannot simply ignore Union protocols. There are rules, procedures." "Your rules failed my people," Marcus interrupted. "Your procedures left 43 humans to die. So here's the new rule. Humans protect humans. If the Union has a problem with that, they can try to stop us. We'll see how that works out." He cut the connection. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then Sarah Chen spoke, her voice quiet but clear. "Admiral, you just threatened the entire Galactic Union for us. For one small mining colony." Marcus looked at her, then at his crew, then at the view screen showing the battered colony his people had refused to abandon. Commander Chen, let me tell you something about humans. We're from a death world, a planet that tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. We survived by being too stubborn to quit and too fierce to break. The galaxy thinks we're newcomers, primitives who should be grateful for their scraps. Today we taught them different. He turned back to the view screen, looking at the stars beyond. We taught them that humanity protects its own. We taught them that attacking humans means facing a species that crawled out of Earth's hell and conquered the stars. We taught them that we're not prey. Sarah stood straighter despite her injuries. What happens now? Now? Marcus smiled grimly. Now we make sure this never happens again. We build more ships. We train more Marines. We establish that human colonies are off limits to every raider, pirate, and slaver in the galaxy. We make the name human mean something the universe respects. He looked around his bridge. The Union wanted us to be grateful associate members, happy to accept whatever protection they chose to provide. Instead, they're about to learn that they didn't recruit another client species. They recruited Deathworlders, and Deathworlders don't ask for permission to survive. Throughout the fleet, on every ship, human crews heard their admiral's words. In the days to come, those words would spread across Earth and its colonies. A declaration that humanity would stand on its own, protect its own, and refuse to be anyone's victim. The Galactic Union had ignored the SOS from Arcturus 9. They would never make that mistake again. The end.